Quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show. You want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks.
There we go. We had a button pressed there. All right, folks. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Telling you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. You can also text us in real time at 617-297-8388. That appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we'll try to work it into the conversation. All right, today back at headquarters, he's going to be flying the board behind the glass, so he'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talking conversation. And the station does stream 24/7, like thousands of other radio stations do in the TuneIn app. That means you can take us anywhere on your device, not a problem. You just download that feature, bam, and take us in. I know past the whip, it sounded like that. It sounded like I took one of those upside down can things. Sorry about that. The board is loaded with these special effects, but we also stream the show, the Joe Mangiacotti Show. A couple other shows do here at the station. So that means you can join us and watch and listen on Facebook and X, station Facebook page and YouTube channel, in my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. That's X, Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble. So many ways to listen, many ways to watch, and also we'll be dropping today, I think, or tomorrow, this week's edition of the Weekly Report. You'll be able to see that on my Facebook page or joemangishow.com, as well as Frontiers of Freedom, ff.org, Frontiers of Freedom website. You can go to the AUN TV network, as well as the Rumble channel there too. So a lot of ways to listen, a lot of ways to talk, and thanks for those that join us on the streaming. There's a lot to talk about. The census, Israel, Netanyahu, we got a lot of things to cover. But what was interesting is yesterday or last night, it came to my attention that there's actually when I stream to Facebook, and when you stream to Facebook, I didn't really realize, I knew that you could go in there and you could turn on the captions so that it instantly, Facebook, it's Meta. It's a very, very advanced, right, with this technology, like Google. And even on a live show, the captions pretty much go as fast as I'm talking, or anybody, if you turn it on. So if you go to Facebook to watch the show, the captions will come up, and you can do that. But, and I didn't know this till yesterday, you can change the language, and it will instantly translate. So you're talking, you could put it, say, in Spanish. And I'm doing the show like I am now. And if you're watching on Facebook, well, anything, you're going to see the same screen and you're going to see me doing the same thing. But on Facebook, if you don't do anything and you're in the United States, it does English. But if you're in another country, you can change it to the language you're in. So I didn't know this till last night. And when I found out that there's actually a following in parts of Mexico and Guatemala who watch the show with that translator on. And a lot of the takeaway is that I don't like illegals based on the content of the show. So let me clarify something. I don't dislike illegals as people. All right. When you say that we have sovereign borders like every other country does, and every country has a right to define those borders and protect those borders, that's not anti-immigrant in the sense that I don't like those people who illegally cross and they become illegals. Now, I do have a problem with the people who commit violent crimes. I mean, hate's a strong word, but you know what I mean? I'm not really thrilled about them, and I think they should be ejected from the country very quickly. But I do not dislike and much less hate illegals for being here. So let's get this straight, okay? It's not a matter by having a strong feeling on law and order, recognizing that we have a defined border and that border should be protected. Ted's making a comment about good-looking immigrants. You know, that reminds me about ugly criminal. Remember years ago there was a story before Trump was in. There was a story about Border Patrol, and they were actually allowing the good-looking, say, Brazilian women in over non-great-looking women. So I'm sure that might happen on some level, but not as a rule. But the point is, to those people who happen to watch with the translator in other parts of the world, especially South America, let's make that clear. I have no issue with you personally. I'm sure for most of you, I would probably like you and find you to be nice people and all of that. So don't confuse saying, hey, let's follow the law and we're entitled to a sovereign border. Every other country. And for those, if you look at the immigration and the border laws, say in Mexico, they have some of the toughest in the world. In the world they have in Mexico. So I'm just saying America has the right to have its sovereign borders. If you violate that, you probably should be deported. Now, I also have always said this when it comes to immigration issue, folks. It has to be a 1-2 punch. That's a figure of speech. Don't read into that. Meaning that, well, we do what we do, and we have record border control right now, right? Down incredible illegal crossings. We've had a lot of deportations, as well as a lot of self-deportations going on. So that's fine. But while we secure our border to the point that nobody even tries anymore, I think at the same time, Congress needs to address this issue and streamline some kind of, and I'm not saying path to citizenship, but a work visa of some type. There are people that have been traveling that actually commute from Mexico into the United States to work in Southern California farms and things of that nature. Now, I know there's some talk now, you know, Trump is getting a little pushback from produce farmers and, you know, that industry. And they're saying, hey, we do count on a lot of people who aren't born here to do this work. And he wants to carve something out. Well, I think you should carve it out across the board. And, you know, I was looking at old footage from years ago when Hillary Clinton was going to run for president. And she talked about something, and it actually had common sense to it. It made a little sense. And it was saying, you know, look, if you're illegally here, let's have not amnesty, that we sign everything. In like Ronald Reagan said one of the biggest regrets he had after he was sworn in 1981 was walking into the rotunda and signing that amnesty bill, right? Making millions of illegals legally here in the stroke of a pen. But saying if you're here, we'll have a window that you come forward and we'll say, fine, as long as you haven't committed, you know, serious violent crimes here, you're not part of a gang network, you haven't robbed, you haven't beaten, you haven't, you know, the drill. That you may have been here and you've been maybe working under the table and so forth, but we're gonna impose a fine for illegally coming in, which we would raise millions, if not billions of dollars. You've got to pay some kind of back tax fee on top of that, but then you'll have a work permit. Now that, in addition to the fact that we can vet you. And going forward, if you want to come into this country to work, if you can establish a few things, and I don't think they're ridiculous, that you're coming here with the means or the support, meaning a sponsor, somebody who says that yes, they can come live until they can take, you know, afford their own place, or you come here with enough money for first, last, rent somewhere, get a job, pick up yourself. You can't come here and you're ineligible for any of our safety net programs. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, food stamps, all of that, until you've paid into the system for 8-10 years, maybe, whatever the case may be. But we can also vet you for you are who you are. We're able to, in our consulates in these countries, are able to confirm your birth certificate, the fact that you have no criminal record, no mental health issues, and you don't have any gang affiliations. If you can clear those, which I think are very low bars, then we give you a special kind of work permit that allows you to come here, rent property, get a job, have a tax ID number, not a social security number, an EIN number, and work under that number. And then in the meantime, you can start the process after a period of permanent green card and citizenship. I don't think that's hard. Congress has to do their job. They've got to get their stuff together, and they've got to do this. So to my friends south of the border who watch and listen to this with the translating closed caption on, I am pleased. I do not hate immigrants. For those who have listened to the show for a long time, if you remember, I married somebody from outside of this country that wasn't an American citizen and engaged to another one. So it's silly to think that. I just say we have laws. The laws should be followed and enforced, and consequences when they're broken. And as a sovereign nation, we have the right to a sovereign border. And if you cross that border illegally, you're at risk, especially under this administration and this Department of Homeland Security and this border czar, Tom Homan, and of course, Kristi Noem. You have a good chance of being caught and sent back, which is why a lot of people have self-deported, got the free flight back, got their $1,000, and when they go back that way, it immediately begins a path for them to come back to the country totally legally. It's going to take time, and you go to the back of the line, but it can happen. All right. I just need to declare that up because, quite frankly, people, I was shocked to find out that there was a significant number of people who watch my show with the Spanish closed caption on Facebook. That was pretty amazing to find out. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. It appears on the screen in real time here in the studio. And don't forget, we do stream the Joe Mangiacotti Show on multiple platforms. Most commonly used is Rumble, but believe me, Facebook is very well used. We'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 495. The course came through the winter grade, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
When you find yourself in a corner, you need someone who's got your back. Describe.ai is a natural language search engine that provides access to legal research when you need it the most. Powered by AI to help humans search more than 3 million judicial summaries in both English and Spanish. This app is completely free because access to justice is this company's why. Visit Describe.ai to find the case law that has your back. That's DESCRYBE.ai.
Did you know by age 35, most people start to notice the effects of declining hormone levels? Symptoms include lack of energy, less focus, decreased sex drive, weight gain, and poor quality sleep. Twist 25 DHEA cream helps men and women 35 and up to maintain vitality, youthful vigor, enhanced mood and focus, and a better night's sleep. As a base building block for hormones, DHEA gives the body a key foundation it uses to make hormones. Visit twist25.com to learn more or call 888-489-4782. 888-4TWIST25.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment here of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, we do stream, so you can join us on the video, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and of course, Rumble. And later today, tomorrow, we'll be dropping this week's edition of the weekly report from the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. That's a DC-based think tank. I'm a panelist on that. You can listen to the audio here on AM 830 WCRN on the weekends, I think 2 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday, or you can go to Rumble, AUN TV Network, but they're all out in the northwest part of the country, but they do, I think, have but just go to ff.org or Rumble. Anyway, 508-871-7000. Let me jump to the phones real quick. Mark's been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
I say it's a beautiful day today, isn't it? In the neighborhood and all over the general area.
Looks it. I haven't been out yet. I haven't been out of the studio. I've been here all morning inside, so I haven't been out yet.
You better get out of here, because you get out of there and put the top down on your caddy and enjoy it, because
You got that right.
You maybe get 7 days
Yeah.
of this quality in New England per annum. Now, outstanding. The weather right now, outstanding. So anyways, I turned on the news this morning, early in the morning, and I guess there's a meeting pending, they're saying, but looks like it's on, between, Vladimir and
Trump
and Putin. The big threesome, they're going to meet like they did in Yalta, and they're going to hammer out some kind of a deal. Now, immediately the pundits come on, right? NBC News, ABC News, the Today Show, and they say, well, this ain't a done deal yet, and it's all pending, and this is going to be ironed out. We don't know. You know what? I say it's going to go down, and you want to know the reason why I think it's going to go down?
I'd love to.
Because early in the morning, the first press organization to announce it before anybody else did was the Associated Press. Or like we used to call it back in the days of the Vietnam era, the CI space AP Press. Okay. So, hey, that's why, to be quite frank with you, that's why I think it's going to go down. Just for that reason. Have a good one, bro.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the call. It was a good call. And that's funny that Mark says that, because, like 40 years ago, starting this business in the newsrooms, don't you love that term? Well, hot off the wire, on the wire. Well, that was the dot matrix printer that was in the newsrooms back in the day, in the 80s, into the 90s, long before the internet, was able to replace everything. That dot matrix printer was actually connected to the AP, and that's where we got our news. So when you'd be in the newsroom, and all of a sudden it's that little dot matrix sound, and it had the paper with the little holes on the side that could thread it too. And this story would break over AP, and it would have the city that it's coming from. And Ted, we called it rip and read. And the AP would send out this over the wire, and you'd be in the newsroom, and you'd rip it out of the printer, and it was written for the ear. It was supposed to be, you could rip and read this. You could just rip it off and have a news story right in front of you. And it was the AP, the Associated Press, that was feeding the entire country its news. And if you go back to the, was it Good Morning Vietnam, where Robin Williams portrays an actual disc jockey for Radio America during the Vietnam War, that was portrayed there, kind of. And then they had the two information officers, I guess you'd call them, the Tweedledum guys that were in there, that was editing there and censoring everything. But yes, I get what you're saying, and that's going to happen. I agree. I agree that this is going to happen. And UPI, yeah, United Press International was also, yeah, that's true too. They were out there too. But I remember AP being the one that I'd always read. I'm thinking of specifically when I was a news director at WSRO in Marlboro back in the day when it existed. We had the AP wire in there. But yeah. So I think this is going to happen because we're down to what, a day for the deadline that Trump gave Putin, and it's just about time. They're not gonna. Putin doesn't want to go down this, and the people, the oligarchs and stuff like that, there are not gonna let that happen as well. But let me pick up on this other issue here, because it's Israel's imperative to eliminate Hamas in Gaza. And I'm calling this a moral and strategic necessity on this. And yesterday, the New York Post published an opinion piece titled, "Israel has every right to finish the job in Gaza by obliterating Hamas." And it's arguing that Israel must fully occupy Gaza to dismantle Hamas following the group's rejection of ceasefire deals and its brutal treatment of the Israeli and American hostages, by the way. And the article asserts that Israel faces a stark choice: surrender to Hamas's demands or decisively eliminate the terrorist organization to protect its citizens and secure the hostages' release. So in this essay, what I'm saying is it examines the moral and strategic arguments for Israel's potential full-scale military operation in Gaza, while addressing the political and humanitarian challenges highlighted in this New York piece. Drawing on the urgency of the situation and the border context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it argues that neutralizing Hamas is a necessary step, though one fraught with risks that demand careful consideration. And my producers asked me how hostages could be alive at this point. I agree with that, but apparently they have evidence that some still are. And trust me, the moment they determine none are, gloves are really off. There's nothing preventing them from moving forward on this. But this whole idea, I'm going to digress for a second, and then we did get into this on the weekly report a little bit, that now you've got, Britain and Canada and some in France, I think, all saying, hey, in September, if you don't stop to Israel, if you don't just say, all right, cry uncle, enough is enough, we're going to recognize Palestine. We're going to recognize them. How stupid is that? Well, let me go back to the case for eliminating Hamas, which it has to be done. And I mentioned this before. I do have a friend in the Gaza Strip, a Palestinian, who, when they do have internet connection, because you know why they can't count on it, but when he does get it, he on the WhatsApp app, the encrypted one that Meta bought, WhatsApp, he'll send pictures, not AP pictures or news pictures he's taken from his phone, his device, of the food trucks trying to come in, the people that are starving, the people that's what it's looking like. And we've been having an exchange for quite a number of months now. But again, Hamas's actions, they provide a very compelling case for Israel's need to eradicate the group. Right. Now, the New York Post highlights Hamas's refusal to accept ceasefire proposals and its explicit vow to repeat that October 7th attack 2 years ago. Yeah, they're still saying we're going to do that again, which killed 1,200 Israelis in the most brutal ways. And we saw over 250 taken hostages. And now we have these recent videos showing emancipated Israeli hostages, even one digging his own grave. I don't think we've seen footage like this since Nazi Germany. And it underscores the group's cruelty in sources like Reuters noting that at least 110 hostages remain in Gaza as of this month. 110. To Ted's point, my producer's point, really? Alive, all alive? I find that so hard. Good point. If Palestine is recognized national state, then it can justify eliminating the occupying force. No? True. But 110 hostages remain in Gaza, according to some news outlets. I don't know what our intelligence agencies say on that. Now, some of them are likely dead to the Hamas's mistreatment. In the organization's charter and public statement, as cited in the article in the Post, in the New York Times, reaffirm its goal of destroying Israel through relentless violence. Allowing Hamas to retain power would mean endorsing a terrorist entity that prioritizes Israel's annihilation over governance of peace. Strategically, a full military occupation of Gaza is reportedly considered by Israeli security cabinet as of today, aims to neutralize this existential threat. The IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, already controls 75% of Gaza, according to the New York Post, but have avoided densely populated areas like Gaza City to minimize hostage casualties. However, with evidence of Hamas's ongoing abuse, this article argues that further restraint risks hostages, their lives, without achieving security. A decisive operation to dismantle Hamas's infrastructure, its tunnels, weapon caches, and leadership could prevent future attacks, potentially secure the hostages released by force, though it carries significant risk to both hostages and civilians. But folks, we got to pause here for our mid-show break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, 508-871-7000. Don't forget, we're streaming on our social media platforms, so stick with us. We'll be back in 2 and 10 on the other side, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. You're going to like the way it brightens up today as wildfire smoke continues to thin. That means mostly sunny skies this afternoon with highs close to 80 degrees. It is going to be clear and a little bit cool overnight tonight as lows dip into the 50s. That's how you wake up Friday morning, but then the warm up takes us back to the lower 80s as blue skies and just a really comfortable forecast continues. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Fuller Park is the place to play. Best ballpark in AAA.
And the Woo Sox come back. They walk it off.
With a bumper crop of red-hot Red Sox prospects on the way, don't miss a moment. Get your tickets today.
In the air to deep left center field. Back into the gap. This ball is gone.
Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to see the Woo Sox play in April and May.
Looking to add your talent to a dynamic company? United States Traffic Network seeks a motivated account executive to join the sales team. Send your resume to ustrafficnetwork.com/career.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, our text line is running at 617-297-8388. And you can join the conversation at 617. No, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Actually, let me go, before I continue with my thoughts on the Hamas and Israeli situation, go to the phones. Ken's waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Good afternoon, Joe. Before I get to the Hamas,
Did you almost call me Hank?
Yeah, I do both. So.
Yeah, that's all right. Keeps it spicy.
Yeah, there you go. But the first segment, you mentioned that you had a number of Hispanic, and Hispanic only, I guess. So you have some way of determining your audience via, or they are entering.
Because I got feedback and I got this earful about how I hate immigrants and so forth. And I'm saying, where the hell is this coming from? And then I am informed, well, there's a lot of people in Mexico and Guatemala who'd watch Facebook, and not only it does it in English, but they can go in and set it to Spanish. So even though they might not understand me speaking, they're watching in real time what I'm saying. And their takeaway, majority of their takeaway, there's a few of them who understand the nuance of what I'm saying, but a majority of them are like, oh, he really hates immigrants. No, I don't really hate immigrants. For crying out loud, I married one and marrying another one. So it's not I hate immigrants. I just think that our borders should be secure. Our laws should be followed. And if you break them, there are consequences. Why is that a hard thing to understand?
Well, they're bogus, the critics that you're describing. And I think we conservatives and Republicans have to embrace the idea to reject what we've been told, that, oh, no, you can't get the minority vote. Are you kidding me? Yes, we are, in increasing numbers, and it was proven in 2024. And in fact,
isn't that one of the issues in Texas redistricting? One of them is going to be a heavily Latino district, right? I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah, which is going Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're just going to make sure it goes Republican and a little bit of tweak, which you can do. We've had Elbridge Gerry's rules for over 200 years. Dems have abused them to the max. Now they're, what? You're going to use those rules? Oh, yes, we are. Right back at you. But my point is, embrace the fact that Hispanic-speaking people are coming our way. Why? Because they resent illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the polls when they do review the Hispanic vote. Some of those are illegals that are getting in the polls, who are probably 80+% for Democrats. And despite that, we're winning the male Hispanic vote in 2024. It's just going to get better. So don't apologize about it. No, we should be saying all out, yeah, we're going to get the Hispanic vote in increasing numbers, and we're proud of it.
I've had conversations with illegals who are here, but they have told me, yeah, I am illegal, I get that, but I actually support Donald Trump's policies, and I see this because they actually don't want the country overrun with cartel and gang members either. A lot of them fled that, Ken. So, they think they're leaving that in some of these countries, and they come here and then look at what happened to the Doge, and I forget his I don't want to keep referring to him as his screen name, Big Balls. But I mean, because look, he was very heroic, and he took a beat down to try to save that woman. We should use his real name, and my apologies because I don't remember it on the top of my head. But look what happened to him. Look what happened to the intern that was murdered in DC. Like this is ridiculous. Any given weekend in Chicago, how many shots are fired? How many people are shot? How many people were killed? That should not be happening on the streets of the United States of America. And now Jean Perro has been confirmed as the Washington, D.C. U.S. attorney. I mean, she's been doing this, she was a judge and a prosecutor, DA for 30 some odd years. I'm glad she's there because I don't think she's going to allow any soft on crime policies or dismiss, give slaps on the wrist. And we need that across all U.S. attorneys.
So crossing over to the Gaza discussion,
Yeah.
I just like to state the facts. Who is in control of Gaza? Wouldn't that be Hamas
Exactly.
for like almost 20 years now? It isn't like
Yeah, actually, it was 2005 when Israel said, you know what? We're sick of this. Here's the keys. We're going to give you the keys. We're going to get out. We're going to leave all of this beautiful structures that we've built. We're going to leave them intact, including the waterways, right? The sewer system, the water system. And we're going to feed Gaza its power and water for nothing. And we're going to give you $2 billion in aid every year. And what did Hamas do? They didn't use their $2 billion a year, right? Because they got elected in 2006, took power in 2007. And they used that $2 billion to build their army, or what they consider their army. They didn't build roadways and hospitals and schools. They even ripped up the water and sewer pipes that were installed in the infrastructure when Israel occupied Gaza, and they used them to make makeshift weapons. And they've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I mean, Israel left Gaza 20 years ago, 2005. And they continued to provide them with water and electricity in that aid, Ken. And the Palestinians, not all Palestinians, are okay with Hamas. They're like I said, I do have a Palestinian friend who hates Hamas, and his family hates Hamas, and they want Hamas to be removed. But living under Hamas is like living under maybe the 1930s Nazi Germany. You can't speak out. It's very dangerous to do so. But I don't hear any stories ever, Ken, about rank and file Palestinians helping a Jew escape. Matter of fact, I've heard reports of the opposite, that the rank and file Palestinian civilians will turn them in or help recapture them if they do make a run for it. So that's disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah, and so Hamas controls Gaza, and there are people in Gaza that are starving, despite the fact that there have been Jewish contributions of food that 80+% of which have been hijacked and used to sell at ridiculous prices in order so that they can get some money to buy more arms.
Yep.
And who's at fault? By the media and the Europeans?
Yeah.
Talk about a fake story. This is just so ridiculous, and we've put up with this for 20 years? Come on. Wake up.
And there was an expose about, a week, 10 days ago, where some footage was taken from the United Nations with just hundreds of pallets of supplies and food that they hadn't distributed yet because they couldn't figure out who was going to take credit for it. And when they do put it in, to your point, Hamas controls it. Very little gets to the actual people. But I thought this past week that some nations started doing drops. Oh, and if you want to go check something out, I think it was either Fox Nation or one of them. I don't know if it was Bill Hemmer or somebody who did this thing on Fox where they actually went into Gaza and they broke the soldiers. They broke it down for them as to the stations and how they distribute the food, and that it's gone in minutes. That does make it to them. I mean, it's horrific what's going on there, and I think that's where you see some daylight between Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump, and when it comes to that, because Netanyahu's saying it's not what you're seeing on the media. People aren't starving that way. I mean, they did use that poor sick child. It had nothing to do with starvation, had to do with the disease, and tried to use that as the poster child, saying this is how all the children look in Gaza. Do you remember that last week?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, look, they by no means are they fat, dumb, and happy by any stretch of the imagination. But the evil doers here on all fronts, folks, is Hamas. Hamas. Do not to France, Britain, in Canada. Don't be an idiot and out of your pettiness, recognize Hamas as a state. Just stop it. Or Palestine as a state. It's absolutely not the path to go down. Final thought, Ken, we're running against the clock.
Joe, there's an easy explanation why Europe's doing what they're doing, because they have been taken over by Islamists. Look at London.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Islamists from here on in. So they're simply marching to their orders.
There's a lot of mayors in England right now who happen to be, that's another topic for another show. Ken, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Always a good call. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It's 508-871-7000. I'm going to finish a couple thoughts on an essay that I post to my site, but and it has to do with the New York Post identifies, and this is the imperative here, to eliminate Hamas from Gaza. And the New York Post identifies significant obstacles to Israelis' mission, okay? Primarily from international and domestic political pressure, as I said. Internationally, right, these governments, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, they've criticized Israel's actions with some planning to recognize Palestinian state. Wrong move. A move that this article frames as rewarding Hamas's violence, and I agree with this. In a UN official's description of a full Gaza occupation is deeply alarming, reflects global apprehension. Now you got outlets like Al Jazeera reporting concerns over civilian displacement and casualties. This criticism does risk isolating Israel diplomatically and could lead to sanctions or reduced support from allies, and that would complicate IDF's operations, no question about it. But we're coming up to our third and final break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is still running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Stick with us. We'll be back for the fourth and final segment, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, folks.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going. Are you looking for a holistic approach to your health? One that supports your body's natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal? Look no further. The Bioregulatory Medical Institute, BRMI, a nonprofit global organization dedicated to advancing the science and art of bioregulatory medicine, welcomes you to their free and rich library of resources. You'll find articles, podcasts, videos, and more at brmi.online. BRMI believes health freedom is a basic human right, honoring medical ethics and the innate intelligence of the human body. When your body is properly supported, it will thrive. If you're looking for the root cause of illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, visit brmi.online. brmi.online.
Did you know your business loses $1,685 per employee each year? Poor health doesn't just mean sick days. It drains energy, lowers productivity, and impacts your bottom line. I'm Kelly Hamilton, certified holistic nutritionist, ICU nurse, and owner of A Better Path to Wellness. I help businesses create healthier workplaces so employees thrive and companies save money. Let's optimize the wellness and productivity of your team. Call 774-253-4934 today.
All right, folks, welcome back here for the fourth and final segment of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding folks you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 for the remainder of this hour. And finishing my my essay here that I've posted on Israel's imperative to eliminate Hamas in Gaza. Despite the challenges that this New York Post argues that Israel has every right to eliminate Hamas, a position grounded in both moral and strategic imperatives. Morally, Hamas's actions, its October 7th massacre, hostage abuse, and commitment to ongoing violence, strip it of any legitimacy as a negotiating partner. Surrendering to its demands, as this article notes, would mean allowing a terrorist group to maintain power and continue its attacks, an untenable outcome for any sovereign state. The IDF's history of executing complex operations, such as the 76 Ateb rescue, supports the feasibility of a decisive campaign. Though Gaza's urban density and Hamas's use of civilian infrastructure pose very unique challenges for this, and strategically neutralizing Hamas could reshape the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. A 2025 report by the Institute for National Security Studies suggests that dismantling Hamas's military capabilities could pave the way for alternative Palestinian leadership, potentially enabling future peace talks. The New York Post emphasized that the war could end immediately if Hamas freed the hostages and relinquished control, placing the onus on the group for prolonging the conflict. Now, President Trump's reported stance, up to Israel to decide, offers diplomatic breathing room here, contrasting it with the criticism from other Western nations and reinforcing Israel's autonomy in addressing its security. To succeed, Israel must navigate the risk outlined in the article. Operationally, the IDF must prioritize precision to minimize civilian and hostage casualties, possibly through targeted strikes on Hamas leadership, as suggested by a 2025 Jerusalem Post analysis. And diplomatically, Israel could counter criticism by engaging allies like us, like the US, to highlight Hamas's violations of international law, such as using civilians as human shields, documented by Human Rights Watch in 2024. Addressing humanitarian concerns through coordinated aid efforts, as Trump proposes, could mitigate backlash, though the Somalia analogy warns of potential pitfalls with that, doesn't it? Internally, Netanyahu's government must address public fears by transparently communicating the operation's goals and risks. The New York Post call for moral support, anyone with any moral sense should back it to the hill, by the way, underscores the need for a unified narrative that frames the operation as essential for Israeli survival. We see posts on X reflect mixed sentiment, with some supporting Israel's right to defense and others condemning humanitarian toll, highlighting the need for Israel to balance force with accountability. I think they've been doing a pretty good job of that. Their intelligence is absolutely fantastic. And when they can put a missile through a window, 2 rooms, and into the room that Hamas leadership is actually meeting at, leaving the rest of the building intact, I think they're going through that extra effort. The New York Post argument that Israel must finish the job by obliterating Hamas reflects the desire and the dire necessity of addressing an existential threat while grappling with complex political and humanitarian challenges. Now, Hamas's intrinsic hostage abuse and genocide rhetoric leave Israel with little choice but to pursue decisive action. A surrender would embolden further violence. Yet the risks of international isolation, domestic division, and civilian suffering demand a strategy that combines military precision with diplomatic and humanitarian foresight. As Orwell's 1984 warns of rejecting evidence, Israel must ground its actions in the undeniable reality of Hamas's threat, ensuring that its purest of security upholds both moral clarity and strategic pragmatism. The path forward is fraught, but eliminating Hamas remains a critical step towards safeguarding Israel's future. There's no question about that, folks. No question at all. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. You can do that for the remainder of the time that we have here for the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. One thing I wanted to touch on before I had to wrap up for the week and for today is President Trump's directive for the new census that would exclude the undocumented immigrants. Here we go again. So for those of you watching and reading the translation on Facebook, pay attention to the nuance of what I am saying. Just on its face value, counting people who are illegals in the country in the census, I agree with. They should be counted for purpose of information, but they should be excluded when using it to calculate what our founding fathers set up for the purpose of the census. As they directed, we should have a census every 10 years from which to determine how the population of the country is sitting. And then based on that, members of Congress will be determined. Senate's a set number. Every state, regardless of population or physical mass, has 2 senators. We do have some states with 1 congressperson. We have some with 30 congresspeople, right? But people who are not here legally should not be calculated or in the calculus for determining congressional districts. Common sense dictates that to us. So President Donald Trump announced via Truth Social today that he has directed the Department of Commerce to conduct a new U.S. Census, this time excluding undocumented immigrants from the population count that's used for congressional appointment in Electoral College allocation. I would have to agree with that. It makes no sense to include them. Now, the census is also used to figure out where federal money goes based on population, but of course, the inherent built-in factor of this is how many congressional seats does the state hold will also help determine that. So what's the objective of this directive? Well, the directive aims to base congressional representation in Electoral College votes solely on U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens. Not green card holders and not visa holders, and certainly not illegal immigrants or illegal aliens, arguing that including undocumented immigrants undermines the principles of the representative democracy. No kidding. Of course it does. The initiative is intended to influence apportionment ahead of the 26 midterm elections. So leveraging data from 2024 presidential election to inform the new census. We talked about this, or I made reference to this. Massachusetts, we have 9 Congress people, not 1 Republican, but yet 40% more or less voted for Trump in this state. So we have our entire congressional delegation, and let's not forget, I think Ken even made reference to Eldridge Gerry, a governor and vice president that gerrymandering is named after, a Massachusetts politician, of course. So we have a very significant number of either middle of the road to leaning right or Republicans in Massachusetts, but no representation in Congress because of gerrymandering. And that's across the board. I don't know if you caught Illinois Governor Pritzker on the failed Colbert show the other night, but credit to Colbert for bringing out the Illinois districts, the chart, and asking him, how the hell did you get these districts? I mean, they're as bad as Massachusetts. When it sneaks up in little pieces just connected to go to another very heavy pocket of Democrats to make sure that all the districts lean towards the Democratic Party. And he has the cojones to lecture Republicans about gerrymandering. Now, this directive from Trump, right, it echoes the 2020 memorandum in Trump's first term, which sought to exclude undocumented immigrants from apportments, but was blocked by courts and reversed by Biden in 21. Now, the 14th Amendment requires the census to count the whole number of persons in each state for apportionment, a practice historically including all residents, regardless of the immigration status, except for specific groups like foreign tourists and certain diplomats. And Trump's 2020 attempt faced significant legal scrutiny, with SCOTUS declining to rule definitively due to unresolved implementation issues. The current directive is expected to face, of course, similar lawsuits. You know they're going to happen. And it's going to question its constitutionality as well as feasibility. But some argue Congress could redefine persons to exclude non-citizens for apportionment, though this would require legislation and could face judicial review. A House bill introduced by Marjorie Taylor Greene this year aligns with this goal, proposing mid-decade censuses and redistricting accordingly. Folks, we're going to wrap up the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. It is Thursday, so Frankie Boyer is coming up right after the break. I'm gone for the weekend, so enjoy your weekend and enjoy the Carr Brothers tomorrow at 1 o'clock in my stead. That does it. That wraps up the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Thanks for joining us. Joe out, folks.
You're listening to WCRN.